Hello everyone, Voodoo here, and I'm here today because, well, we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary, or bad anniversary, I don't know, of the last time that Havoc actually received class or Spec Tree changes that weren't just like tuning. So what I mean by that is like, oh, 5% extra damage to this or a bug fix to this. The last time we actually got changes to any talents, any point requirements, any pathing to the tree was November 7th, 2023, when 10.2 came out, and we've received nothing since then. Hero talent trees don't really count. So in that sense, a friend of the channel and Havoc Discord mod Atrayen has made a post on the WoW forums going over what his thoughts on the problem are, and he wanted me to kind of give my thoughts on it. So I'm gonna go through and talk about it, talk about what I think some of the problems with Havoc are, and just kind of do a little Doom celebration. We're about a week early here, but of the I don't know, last time Havoc got changes. So like, comment, subscribe, and let's just get into it. Hi everybody, here we are with Atrayen's post. Now I'll link it if you want to see it for yourself, and I'll react content. Woo, I'm a real YouTuber now. We're gonna go through it, we're gonna paraphrase it. I'm obviously not just gonna read off what he's writing. There's a lot here. My guy wrote a very well worded, very long, very well thought out post here. So if you want to read it, go like it, go add your 2 cents, you know, as all these comments have. Go ahead and do that, I'll link it down below. But we're gonna start off with stuff. So Atrayen's positives here are that we actually are no longer a Sinful Brand Cycle of Hatred class. The talent tree did end up giving a lot of new choices where, like, beforehand Cycle of Hatred and First Blood were kind of a choice where you'd either not use Blade Dance or use Blade Dance in the Sinful Brand gameplay loop. Basically, he's just thankful we left that loop and is not talking about how he enjoys the current gameplay one and the damage profile. Now, I do also like the damage profile we have. Obviously, being bursty is way better. I think we're kind of like a little too far that way, where our baseline is kind of low. It's better now that they bug fixed the Monster Rising to give us agility outside of our demon form. But right now, especially as Felsguard, outside of meta and I-beam, you're basically doing no damage, which is interesting. I would like, honestly, I think for the peaks to be lowered a little bit and the troughs to be raised a little bit. You still want that burstiness, but I would rather have a little bit less like inside burst or a little bit more outside of burst. But I think one of the things I don't like, there's a lot of buff windows overlap right now, which I think is fine. I think having some is good. But right now there are Inertia, I-beam, Essence Break, the Sigil from Felsguard, and Vengeful Retreat. There's like a lot of different burst windows, and it's kind of giving a really, like, there's a big barrier to entry for a lot of new players here. And I think one of those things too that I don't really like with the current profile and playstyle is that we have to hold both Immolation Aura and Sigil Flame for those windows because we don't do any damage outside of them. And it feels kind of bad, and it's kind of counterintuitive. But again, I do think that the current, like, Bell Rush once every 40 seconds, VR every 20 seconds, I think that's a perfect amount of movement. Mythic Plus a little bit more, but you're still not Fel Rushing that much. In single target, you literally Fel Rush maybe, I don't know, like 20 times a fight or something like that, which I think is perfectly fine. I think we're in a good spot now where the movement's there if you want it, and if you don't want it, you can kind of ignore it, or, you know, just, I guess, get used to it. I'll touch on that stuff later. There's a little bit of, I want to spit at the end. But yeah, I mean, like, there's a bit of a talk to have about, like, oh, effort you put in doesn't equal reward, which is going to be a slippery slope because Havoc's one of the hardest specs, right? So if you put in an equal amount of effort, you should just be doing more damage on our specs, but, like, that's kind of a slippery slope, and that's not really how balance works. So there are some conversations there. Anyways, so that's good. I know I kind of complained in the good section, but I do like our profile. I think our fantasy is pretty good. Now let's move on to the bad. Now there's a lot of bad. I think bugs is a pretty big one, as well as what Atrayen says. Now there is a bug list that Bees himself has been pretty nice for, well, Bees, Topple, and a few other people have been pretty good at keeping up to date. So we're gonna take a look at that right now. All right, so here is the bug list. Now you can't even see everything, right? Like, if I go wee off screen, you can see there's kind of like the notes here, but there's a lot. So this is by Bees, I'm pretty sure. Shout out to everybody who's, like, done stuff here. This one's fixed, but, you know, I got stuff like Inertia can proc after Unbound Chaos expires. The Preemptive Strike just, like, doesn't work on Atrayen Reaver. Uses ranged AP. Reaver's Mark stacks don't work. None of your enemy buffs, trinkets, and cantrips, which we're not even sure if it's a bug or not, but it causes our tuning to be crazy. Collective Anguish is, like, uses the Vengeance version still, which is weird. I don't know. Hunt and Sigil Spite don't scale with Mastery unless you have any means necessary. Reaver's Glaive is not increased by Inertia. The 4-piece bonus resets at weird times, like there's a lockout under a certain number of CDs. Hunt canceling casting channels. Demon Hunter double dips on a bunch of different things and triple dips on Immolation Aura. You can full stack momentum before combat, swap and then still have it. There's the Burning Blades bugs where they're doing 100% mastery scaling when they should be doing 80. There's double dips from throw the fight. Every additional Immolation Aura you have just deals more damage. There's some vengeance stuff that I don't really care about. Consuming Fire does some weird stuff. Set fire to the paint can crit on you. It doesn't protect against all damage events, but it like does kind of work. So this way, like, there's just like a lot of bugs. You can see this. Some things just don't proc it. Some things do proc it, but you don't get the dot. The class is just full of bugs right now, and some things like this are for a long time, and it kind of makes you feel like you're not really being looked at, which is what he kind of talks about here, which is very fair. You know, we're kind of like an old Windwalker monk where things just don't really work, and this isn't even to mention stuff like the Fell Rush bugs, stuff like that. So it kind of sucks we have those. Clash tree being a miss is another big one that I have. So what he talks about here is that every single capstone is a throughput node, which is very true. There's a ton of just like useless nodes to path through. We have to give up damage to take our defensiveness. So we go look at the Havoc talent tree. Right, so here we are. So a lot of these nodes are kind of just like useless, like whatever nodes, right? Starting at the bottom of the tree, everything down here is a throughput choice, right? There's not really a ton of utility to take. You kind of need to path down to take 2 of these capstones, or else you're just losing damage. You need to take 2 Rush of Chaos, and then you're always going to take either 1 of Collective Anguish or Sigil of Spite. So that's always 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 talents out of 10 that you are taking already. Or is it 11? I think it's 11 actually. And then this is damage, so you just come down and take the rest here. To take Darkness, you actually have to give up Soul Sigils, which is technically a damage loss, especially if you're playing Eldrazi Reaver. If you're not playing Eldrazi Reaver, this isn't as big of a deal. You can just path down this way, but it still kind of sucks. To take 5 minutes Darkness is like a 1% DPS loss, which is ridiculous. When a lot of specs have Darkness up in the center of the tree, or like, you know, like Rallying Cry or Anti-Magic Zone, stuff like that. There's a lot of other weird stuff here too. There's the parry nodes, which just kind of suck. Lost in Darkness basically does nothing, but we just pass through it to take extra points because these 2-point gates are pretty bad. This you can literally just use with macros with at cursor. This is like DPS. This is not technically DPS, but this is just essential survivability, DPS, DPS. This is 2 Glade Charges isn't necessarily important, but you know what I mean, right? And there's like survivability. Like there's no utility, there's no choice. Like if you look at something like Hunter, right? I don't know, let's just go over. Hunter was reworked most recently, right? We'll just look at Beast Mastery, right? So many more options on the tree. And not everything down here is DPS, right? If we grab every single throughput node, we still have like a ton of things left over. Right here, I grabbed all the throughput nodes, and now I have 3 points to put in like defensiveness and stuff. Do we want to come down here? I want Survival of the Fittest, so we'll take that. And I just have like, okay, do we want kick? Do we want to grab Trank Shot? Grab Trank Shot. We're down here now. We'll need kick to grab this. We'll need this for this damage. We'll need this for survivability. Damage. And now look, we have 3 points to do whatever the hell we want, right? Like we have so much choice here in terms of what we're taking. I guess we'll take this for defensiveness. More choice here. We'll take a stun because stuns can be pretty good. We'll take like bursting shot, that's pretty good. Then we're down here. Okay, we'll grab all our DPS nodes. This is DPS. This is just important, and then down here is DPS as well. And now we have 6 more nodes to play around as we want with no DPS choices. If we go to Havoc, we kind of need this. This is DPS. We need this for survivability. That's DPS, and then we need our kick, and we kind of need this, and then we have 1 point. And now at this point, you're like, okay, I kind of need stun. All right, no real choices there. We could take Imprison or Sigil of Misery, but not really. We need to take this for pathing. This is DPS, we need it. This is DPS, we need it. This is an essential survivability, DPS, and then we need to get down to this for survivability, right? So your choices are take 2 Infernal Armor and a Will of the Eridari, and then you have 2 points left over. Or you have to take 1 Loss of Darkness and 1 Will of the Eridari, and you'll have 3 points left over, but you have a useless node. So it's kind of annoying there, and then we'll just, you know, you need movement speed, and then we're down here as well. And down here again, it's just all throughput nodes. So it's very annoying down there. It's just very outdated, and there's not a lot of choices and utility. And then we talk about the Spec Tree. I don't like the Spec Tree at all. So Atrayen talks about a ton of different problems on it, which like are very fair. First one here is uptime stuff with CDR and Cycle of Hatred. So going over Cycle of Hatred here. I don't think this is a problem that exists. I just think the uptime CDR is bad and has been phased out of it like every single class that has it, right? I believe Warlocks had it with their Tyrant, and I believe Death Knights had it with Frost Pillar. But for some reason, we still have it. I think warriors still have it with anger management, but anger management reduces like multiple actions. We can just look, eh? I haven't played a warrior in a bit. Or arms. Is anger management even here anymore? There you go. Every 20 rage you spend reduces the remaining cooldown of Recklessness, Bladestorm, and Ravager. But the thing with those is you just pop them whenever you want. I-beam you have to sync up with Essence Break, or else you're just like why use it? And then it also compounds with Shattered Destiny. I think cycle should just be made like 10 seconds off per node, and I think also that we have way too many 2-point nodes in the bottom of this tree here, which reduces like the choices we can take down here. I think Shattered Destiny is pretty fine, honestly, by itself, but I think cycle is just like you have to constantly have full uptime or else you lose a ton of damage. And the spec just isn't really built around it, right? Like this is just kind of like a throwaway in the bottom here. I don't know. It's just a weird place to be in here, but I'm trying to mention this. I think 10 points per thing is just great. Ton of other talent problems, right? We have a ton of just like passive nodes that shouldn't really exist. Like this is just 4% verse and a threat reduction. This is just 3% magical damage and 5% physical reduction. We have looks can kill, which is the worst talent of all time. This happens over here too. So interrupt and consume magic used to give us fury. They made those talent nodes for some reason. I don't know why. They made looks can kill, which just used to just be a passive. They made a talent. They made chaotic transformation, used to be a passive, a talent. Start of Suffering is just a boring passive node. Do something like improved Chaos Strike. Critical Chaos is pretty useless. Demon Hide's pretty useless. Burning Hatred is like, okay, cool. Like it's just stuff you pass through. There's no real interesting choices until you kind of get down to like the bottom of the tree. Like the entire first top part here is almost entirely like boring passives that do nothing. Like this doesn't really do anything. This doesn't really do anything. You can't really feel this. The glaive stuff is here, I guess. Like this is here. This is here. Burning Wound kind of sucks for different reasons. Serrated Glaive is like whatever. Isolated Prey, like whatever. Like a lot of the nodes are just like, I don't really care. I'm not excited that I'm picking these, right? I'm bored. Like if we look at something like Warlock, look at Affliction. There's a lot of like cool nodes up here that do something. Obviously there's stuff that like doesn't with these 2-point nodes. But there's like cool things, right? Like we have Nightfall, which is like a real thing. That's like a proc you react to. We have Volatile Agony, which is something that like you want to refresh at a certain time. And just like a lot of like interesting things that just like scale your class and you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. I'm picking this. Havoc just has like, 4% verse, 3% magic damage. Like it's just kind of boring in that sense. Back to Atrayen's post here. Throw glaive talents. Yep, 100% agree with that. They're just kind of all over the place and there's just a lot of friction that they don't really interact with anything. There's no real capstone to them. They're just kind of thrown in here, 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 and here. And like there's no real build payoff unless you're playing Eldrazi Reaver, which is like stupid. They're spread out all over the tree. People don't really like it because it's like a free filler that suddenly gets added a fury cost to, which is kind of fair. They're all over the place. There's no real synergy with anything. Someone suggested Essence Break increasing glaives, but like that's kind of weird. Honestly, I think Fell Bombardment could come back, which is a really cool old legendary that just threw a bunch of glaives out. I think like just like a CD that just throws a glaive at nearby enemies would be cool. I think having Glaive Tempest function with the glaive talents would be sick and have like a real capstone for like a glaive build. There's a lot of things they could do that just don't, right? And that's kind of a problem here. Burning Wound's a minor one. When we're not playing the glaive stuff, you have to tab target it, 100% agree, really annoying. And then we go on to finally the combo and the Chaotic Transformation. This is kind of the same problem here. So Chaotic Transformation is a talent that resets Blade Dance and I-Beam. And because of that, if we go over to Felsguard, whenever we do our opener, it's like 20 globals long. And if anyone's been playing Mythic Plus or like lower Mythic Plus keys, you've totally felt this, where you're playing, like you're doing your burst and it takes so many globals that by the time you're doing your Essence Break combo, by the time you're finishing off your burst, like the pack's dead. You have to do Immolation Aura, Sigil of Flame, Fel Rush, Hunt, I-Beam, Immolation Aura, Chaos Strike, Death Sweep, or Death Sweep Chaos Strike, Meta, Death Sweep, Chaos Strike, Immolation Aura, Sigil of Flame, Fel Barrage if you're playing that, Fel Rush, I-Beam, Essence Break, Death Sweep, Annihilation, right? Like, that's a lot. On top of that, Chaotic Transformation means that we have to reset Blade Dance and I-Beam. So a CD where you want to push it, Meta, which is 2 minutes now, you kind of have to hold it all the time because of the fact that you want to reset it and get a lot of the damage from it. A lot of other specs, which Atrayen touches on as well in this thing here, if I believe. Not just 2 minutes and however many seconds until your next I-Beam. A lot of other specs can just like use their cooldown on cooldown, right? I've been playing Survival Hunter a lot recently. Yeah, like it resets your bombs, but oftentimes you're at least 0 bomb charges anyways, so like you can just use it whenever. Fury Warrior, you can use your CDs whenever. Most specs, you can just kind of use them as they're up. Havoc, you need to hold them for other smaller CDs, and it causes a lot of desyncing and like weird issues like that. And Calc Transformation is a lot of the reason for that. And I just don't think it's needed. It adds like a lot of weird rotational complexity. It adds the weird stuff with Restless Hunter that I don't even like. I just don't like it. And then the combo, I talked about it. There's just so much stuff. And not even mentioning like movement versus non-movement, right? Like these stuff here, a lot of people like them, a lot of people hate them, and it's very divisive. And the problem is that like they don't really work in a lot of modern fight design, but they're really good, so we take them. Most other specs don't need to move to do their damage, but Havoc has to, which I think is kind of a problem. And then stuff Eldrazi Reaver is just a horrible tree. The combo's terrible. There's losing of choice. Like the whole tree, I talked about this so many times. It's uptime dependent. Souls don't work for Havoc. The glaive doesn't really feel that good. The payoff doesn't feel that good. It's all just about buffs you get. The visuals are horrible. Hate Eldrazi Reaver. He agrees with me. And then finally defensives. They nerfed our leech a ton. You can barely feel it. So all we have is Blur, Netherwalk, which is on the GCD and fully like you cannot act during it, which is stupid. And it doesn't even like, it's not even a proper immunity. Like you still get dots and stuff like that. So I really think they should buff up Netherwalk, make Desperate Instincts a real choice. Like Desperate Instincts is one of the worst nodes ever. And like we have to use our DPS cooldowns for survivability, right? Like Deflecting Dance, who else has to do that? Meta, we save all the time just to immune stuff. Like what if you're a mage? I don't even know what a mage's short cooldown is. Like, okay, what if you're like a warrior and you have to hold Rampage or a damage event so you can live it? Like that's just stupid, right? Most other specs don't need to do that. Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a lot of passive healing, but I don't know. It's just like everything Havoc does is like, okay, you can do this thing, but then worse, right? Like a lot of that's like VR too. If you're rooted, you actually can't even use meta or do any of your movement stuff. Havoc is one of the only specs with no way of clearing their own route, but they are a spec, the only spec that requires movement to happen while they're playing. So that's kind of where he closes off. It's a bit of a rant for me too, I know here. This is a long video. But I don't know, like the tree just, I don't think is in a good spot. I think there's a lot of ideas here that don't really work. Chaotic Disposition, I hated the talent. It's just like a random damage proc that you can't even see. Know Your Enemy, honestly, is just so restrictive on the tree. I kind of wish it was gone. All these things are 2 points and we kind of want to take all of them. They're so strong, which is like, sucks. The refund here on our the RNG on this doesn't really feel that good sometimes. I like Essence Break. It's probably my best ability. Same with VR. I love VR. But like a lot of stuff here is just like, take it or leave it. Fell Barrage is just like a passive we don't really care about. And you can kind of take it an M+, but like not really. Well, like what is Relentless Onslaught? What is Chaos Theory? There's just so many things here. Nothing's fleshed out. There's so many ideas in one tree that are conflicting. There's so much stuff in here. It's just Havoc's tree is a mess. And so is its Spec Tree, Clash Tree, and just nothing's been done about it, right? One of our hero talent trees is completely unplayable. This is so bad. It just like, it needs like a full rework and we're not getting anything. And it's been a year, so it kind of sucks. Like this is not perfect at all. There's just like, I don't even know anymore. I've heard of this so many times. One of the things I have thought of is I honestly think that Havoc should be split in 2 specs. Because right now, Havoc Demon Hunter is so many things to so many different people. It's a no mover thing. It's a mover thing. It's the demon stuff. It's not the demon stuff. It has to do AoE. It has to do cleave. It has to do this. It has to do that. Like so many things need to be smashed into this one DPS spec tree because we only have 2 specs, right? Where it's not like a warrior, for example, where you can swap to arms or fury depending on what you want to play, depending on what the fight needs. Or mage, you can swap between the 3 mage specs. Warlock, swap between warlock specs. Hunter, you can go like ranged hunters. You can on warlock, I think I mentioned warlock. I don't know. Like you get it, right? Like specs with multiple DPS classes, they don't need to all be everything in one. And the specs that are like Ret Paladin and Windwalker Monk get a lot more attention. Well, Windwalker just got their full rework, which is actually really good. The rework's really fun. But they have much more space in their trees and things just kind of work a lot better. Havoc has none of that, right? Nothing really works in the tree. There's too many clashing ideas, too many things that don't really work. There's no clear, like everything is just like, okay, more cleave, more cleave, more cleave, more cleave. And it's like fine, but I don't know, nothing really works cohesively in it, in my opinion. And there's just a ton of ideas that don't really go anywhere. So I really think splitting it up into like putting the movement and glaive stuff in one tree, putting the demon stuff in the other tree, and just like growing from there would be really, really good for the spec, because that allows you to give those options to people, right? People who don't want the movement stuff can go there. People who want the movement stuff can go to the other one. It allows them to both be fully fleshed out and fully designed around, instead of like there needs to be half a spec for this and half the tree for this, where it's like you get like half a spec in each one and neither of them really work well with each other. So I don't know. We're in a weird spot right now. I really hope Havoc gets some changes soon. But obviously for right now, we're not getting anything until at least January when the next patch comes out. And I do not think we're going to get a rework then. So hopefully in 11.1, we'll get some stuff and I can make a cool video talking about it and stuff like that. But yeah, so I'll link Atrayen's thing if you want to talk about it, if you want to read it. I didn't really read it. I just kind of paraphrased what he was saying and just spit off of it. But yeah, so let me know what you think. Hopefully we get stuff soon. I know we won't until at least next year. And happy 1 year anniversary is the last time Havoc got changes. So peace. A big thank you to all my channel members. Thank you rpalms46, Fear Redefined, Justin Penny, Callum Price, Gabriel Correa, Magic Man 133, Belfafa Dern Dark Terror, Sky Elk, and Brad Wisniak. Thank you guys so much. If you want to become a channel member and just support me a little bit, link in the description. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Peace.